Hey everyone, we're just getting started shortly. I'm just going to wait for people to come in, and we'll start the conversation very very soon. So looking forward to seeing people be part of this conversation. If you want to come up on stage, you totally can. So today we're going to talk about LinkedIn, and I'm creating this little LinkedIn lounge, as I call it, because I want people to just come in and lounge about and share stuff. I think that's a great way to have these fun conversations. So I'm going to talk about LinkedIn and how to help you leverage the platform. I'm going to share some kick-ass tips. I'm also going to invite other people on LinkedIn that I know that are also sharing great knowledge. So yeah, come up on stage. All you gotta do is put your hand up, and you can join the conversation about how to leverage LinkedIn. So let's talk LinkedIn. What do you want to talk about today? Do you want to talk about LinkedIn content? You want to talk about LinkedIn profiles? You want to talk about LinkedIn and why it's awesome, or LinkedIn or why it sucks? Like I just want to hear what people have to say about LinkedIn. And myself and a few other people who are experts on LinkedIn are going to join to share stuff. But I want to hear from you. Tell me a bit. Are you using LinkedIn? Are you not using LinkedIn? Are you just starting to use LinkedIn? Put your hand up, come up on stage, share kind of what you're doing on LinkedIn or not doing LinkedIn, or what you'd like to do on LinkedIn. And that's what the Lounge Lizard's all about. Let's just hang out, chill, and talk about LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to come on stage, you totally can. I'll share kind of what I do on LinkedIn. So, I'm a social media guy, kind of built up some influence mostly on Twitter for the most part. So you might see that I have like 500,000 followers. But I started using LinkedIn more primarily in 2017 as a great place to, make connections, to build up my thought leadership brand profile, to build up my professional profile, so I can get people that. And in the last, when I started in 2017, I had about 8 connections, but I started 6,000 followers on my profile page and about 20. Built that up. It's the main place in where I do my content creation. Although again, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Clubhouse and whatnot, but that's the main place that I do it. So I built it up, and I've learned a lot about LinkedIn, how to use it. I've also learned about it today later on, and yeah. So speaker by trade, I'm an Inc. Magazine top 100 leadership speaker, and really I do create this room to hear from you. I want to just talk talk about whatever you guys want on LinkedIn and see kind of what you're doing. So again, all you gotta do is put your hand up and join me on stage. If you can't, I'd appreciate if you could tweet this out. If you just click there's a tweet right in the nest above. You can just click share something nice about this room. So that's what I'm doing now. So if you want to join us, please do. And I see some people have one person has requested. Great, we love having people on stage because it's about just talking about it and just having a conversation. That's what the lounge is all about. So that's really what I'm doing today, guys. So I'll be here for about maybe 30, 40 minutes to share my knowledge and to invite other experts to be part of it. And I'll also invite people to ask questions and talk about, what they're doing. The tip, which is, the general tip when it comes to using LinkedIn is a lot of people don't take the time to really be clear on a job. Are you trying to just set up a strong brand profile? Are you trying to build a business as an entrepreneur or small business owner? Like, are you representing your corporate brand as an executive? Like, what exactly is your objective? Target audience. What are you trying to do with that target audience? How are you trying to, put yourself out there? So once you're clear on your objective, then who's your target audience? Who are you trying to serve? Because if you're looking for a job, you probably have an idea what kind of work you're looking for. If you are trying to build a brand, then you have an idea of who you're trying to target with that. Like me, for example, I target folks who are on who are going to hire me for corporate training to do LinkedIn, Twitter stuff. So that's what I do. And other people, the other people have different objectives. And then the third thing I'll say is that being clear on your personal brand, exactly who you are, what you deliver, what you're all about. That's really a big part of this process. So clear objective, clear target, clear brand for focus, clarity, and direction, and that's kind of the beginnings of starting your LinkedIn journey. Bex, I'd love for you to share some thoughts or introduce yourself, and maybe see if you can tell me a bit more about what you're doing on LinkedIn or not.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you're at. Nice to see you, Bobby, and thanks for having me up. We spoke once before about courageous conversations, and it stuck with me. And I've been using that terminology for a very long time. It was months ago. My name is Rebecca, and I have been on Twitter for since February, last week of February, in the crypto NFT space and creator space, as far as just like photography and a business owner. And as far as LinkedIn, I've always thought of LinkedIn for me as my online resume from a personal perspective. And I've gotten recruited for several jobs because of it. But I will say right now, this year is the first year I rolled the dice and became a business owner and started a small consulting company. It's been terrifying. And so my LinkedIn is really confusing right now, because I'm still looking for like consulting gigs and potentially a full-time role, and maybe just making my consulting a collective, and it all depends on like fiscal stuff and my runway. And so I've had to kind of morph it into a few different things. But yeah, it's funny that this conversation is coming up just because this morning I was on it. I'm like, my profile is so confusing because it shows that I'm a business owner, but it also shows that I'm a consultant and that I have, executive coaching and senior executive assistant experience, but I'm also a creative. And so there's just a lot going on. And I think that when you are blessed and cursed at the same time with having a very enriched background, and also talents, it's hard to pinpoint what you want to identify as, especially with your branding and your personal branding. And so, and depending on your goal, right? So, um, this is a great conversation. I've got about, I don't know, 15 or 1600 followers and over five something, I don't even know, thousands of connections. I have no idea. Honestly, I know it's significant, but nothing from an influencer standpoint by any means. But yeah, it's hard because it all depends on what your goal is, like you said, Bobby. And right now I'm looking for more consulting gigs, and or potentially I'm always open to that dream job, right? That I'm not afraid to go back to a W-2 situation if it's the dream job and I'm helping people. So it's really just about what you want, like you said, and what your goal is. But it's an amazing tool. I do find a lot of amazing literature on there. And I think that that's the difference, is the attention span is longer on LinkedIn than Twitter.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Bex. Appreciate it. And, I mean, lots to say here. And while I do that, and before I do that, I'd like to ask everybody who's here to, if the link on top there above us, and just retweet that. Let's get more people in this room because we're going to share a lot of knowledge, and Adam's going to speak in a bit as well. So a couple of things. One is the general idea. So your objectives will change and evolve depending on what you're doing. That's one thing. So it'll change, and that's where you change your headline. You might change a bit of your story. You adjust things on your profile. Number one thing I will say though is that your personal profile is your overall target. So you want to capture the story of you. So talk about all those things. Put them in your about section is where you can share that. You can even share it in your headline because there's enough real estate to mention the three things that you're doing, right? So even though my primary thing is I'm a professional speaker, yeah, I also throw in the fact that I do coaching and I'm a trainer. And I think people need to know that I also share my expertise because I have more than one expertise. In fact, I have many, but I chose my three as thought leadership, personal branding, right, and digital influence. So I had to be very specific with that. But then in my story, here's what I'm doing, here's where I've been, here's what I'm trying to do. And also the other thing I do is the 30-second profile video that I have. That definitely lays out exactly the video is perfect. I love the video because it's like this tells you exactly, hi, I'm Bobby. Here's what I do. Here's how I help organizations. And so you can say all that stuff in the 30-second profile video and in your long about section, which has a ton of real estate and words and characters there. So that's kind of, I would also keep that in mind. The last thing I'll mention, and maybe I'll let Adam share something afterwards if he has a thought. The last thing I'll say is that if you do have a business or brand, and before I finish, before the third thought, is having a clear thought leadership brand profile of who you are will lead to clients and lead to potential opportunities for a job if you want one. So just the rest of your life you're always going to have this thought leadership brand. So keep putting that brand out there, keep sharing that, and keep working on that, and evolving that online resume as you go along. And the third thing I'll say is if you have a business, then you can start a company page, right? So I have several company pages. So I have a company page for my coaching. I have a company page for personal branding. I have a company page for the Thought Leadership Brand Club. And so I have those company pages because those are certain parts of me that are beyond me because they have other team members that are doing stuff as well. Except for my coaching page, that's just me. But I keep my main profile as Bobby Umar, the overall total thought leadership brand of who I am. And then I have the company pages to focus on the specific targets that are there. The truth is I get more results and more engagement with my main profile. So that's where I spend most of my time. But building up a company page can have a lot of great value as well. There's a lot of cool benefits there that can give you more focused attention. So those are my thoughts, and I'd like to welcome Adam because Adam's a colleague on Twitter and LinkedIn who also loves to share thoughts and knowledge about LinkedIn. So I see him as one of my LinkedIn Lounge Lizards buddies. So Adam, go ahead. How are you?
Hey, Bobby, it's really it's great to be here. Just I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I want to make sure it's just me. So if you could just throw
Oh,
up
good
like
to know.
an emoji to make sure that my stuff is coming through clearly, then I'll know that I can just kind of launch in. All right, so I'll just
I can
launch
hear
into
you.
it. Fantastic. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's
so.
probably a little bit. Sorry to cut you off.
Just, oh no, not at all. Just a little bit, and it could just be also where I am and my reception. But no, I wanted to double down on what both of you were talking about, particularly Bex, the point that you made and the point that I think Bobby underscored that, for people who don't, and I'll get back to that point in just a second, people who don't know me, um, so I'm Adam. I am across LinkedIn, across Twitter. You probably know me as the guy with the orange sunglasses, the 0 to 1 networker. And so basically what I do is I'm a writer. I am a speaker and consultant. I'm heavily involved in the tech startup space. I'm actually an advisor at the Atlanta Tech Village, which is like I think the third or fourth largest highest concentration of tech startups in the country. And what I do is I do advising with founders and clients on how to build networks and long-term relationships and dialogues separate from sales and marketing, because there is a fundamental difference between sales and marketing, and really between building long-term conversations and dialogues. Um, Certainly, everyone knows it's critical to have money coming into your company, but networking is different because it should be inherently non-transactional when it starts, and it's oftentimes very difficult for, certainly in tech and startups, when we have this kind of mentality of ship yesterday, iterate as quickly as you possibly can, get as much feedback as you can, and make the next kind of version of your product. It can be really difficult to wrap your head around the fact that like building relationships isn't going to be an overnight kind of thing. If you think about the most successful and important relationships in your life, whether it's spousal or family or close friends, those relationships did not gestate over a 1 week period. They take time and care and patience and empathy and consistency. And just, it's like relationships are living, breathing things and require constant kind of adjustment and understanding and learning. And so one of the things I wanted to jump back to is that the point that I think both Bex and Bobby were making is that people are multidimensional. And I talk to founders a lot about being multidimensional. Before I was in tech, I spent a decade and change in the music industry. And that's where I actually learned how to build relationships in a non-transactional context. So it's kind of funny for me that people, across LinkedIn, they may not be familiar with that, because I kind of got on LinkedIn as a power user, as a proactive user after I was on Twitter. And I think it's really critical to understand, particularly when we're talking about building, I think of it as building access, that you build access by focusing less on follower count and more on long-term value creation and mutual benefits. So yeah, follower count is great, and it certainly has an ego boost quality to it. But ultimately, what I encourage the founders I work with and the clients I work with, and when I go out and do speaking, what I encourage people to really think about is, who do I want to have access to, and how do I gain access to that person or that organization in a way that is compelling and incentivizes that person or organization to answer my email, pick up my phone call, and oftentimes has nothing to do with follower count. It has to do with, how do I create a long-term on-ramp dialogue with this person or organization that is fundamentally built around, well, let's look for a mutually beneficial dynamic. Really great networking is not zero sum. It's not like the NBA finals where one team is going home unhappy, regardless. And you can have a situation where you look for solutions where you say, wow, this can work for everyone involved. Everyone can come away winning from this situation in some context. And so that is what I spend an enormous amount of time doing. And while I love to have the massive reach that Bobby has, um, but Bobby spent many, many, many years building that. And I think that a perfect example is, Bobby has this huge reach, but he's also made himself very accessible to people who create consistent long-term value. And I think that that's the really most important thing, because if somebody has a huge follower count number, but they're totally inaccessible, to me, that says, well, there's it's maybe not a red flag per se, but it's much harder to see yourself having a conversation with that person.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of people who build a lot of followers on LinkedIn or Twitter, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they disconnect with you and don't talk to you anymore. And it's like, when did you become such a such a jerk? Like, some people do that. It's just so bad. It's like, oh my god, like, I remember this one woman. We were collaborating together. We hosted a live stream. And then all of a sudden she took off on Twitter, and then I reached out to her, and then she unfollowed me, and I was like, okay, like, look, like, everyone started at zero, right? The thing is, your follower account is an asset, okay? Just like your ability to do video, just like your ability to, have empathy and your empathy skills. So all these things are assets and skills that you can build and work on. So having more followers and whatever, that's great. It increases opportunities. Absolutely increases. It's a numbers game, so you certainly have opportunities to be seen, and next thing you know, someone might want to talk to you, which is great. But it's just an asset, right? But no matter how many assets you have, don't be an ass, right? So just it's at the end of the day, it's always about building deep relationships, because when it comes to my business, whether it's speaking, coaching, training, whatever it might be, every single person hired me because they had trusted me, and they it's a relationship that you're building. So some people trust the brand credibility. That's great, and I get an opportunity that maybe I wouldn't get otherwise because of my reach. But then at the end of the day, as soon as they meet me, if I act like a douche, then I'm going to lose it, lose the client, or maybe not be hired again. And so you have to be a really good person. You have to nurture the relationships, and so that to me is something that is really, really important. And again, today this is the LinkedIn. I'm calling it LinkedIn Lounge Lizards. Adam, I was debating names because another fellow I was trying to get on. I was trying to collaborate with Leah and this other fella, and he's like, "Oh, I don't like LinkedIn Mastery," which is what I normally call it. LinkedIn Mastery is a series that we have on Clubhouse and LinkedIn Audio on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. It's on Clubhouse, and on Tuesday and Thursday it's on LinkedIn Audio, and it's something we started about a year and a half ago through the Thought Brand Club. And he's like, "I don't like LinkedIn Mastery." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well then let's call it something different." But to me, I mean, the purpose is the same. I want to talk about LinkedIn. I want to share knowledge. I want to highlight speakers. So I decided to go with LinkedIn Lounge Lizards because I thought it'd be kind of fun, fun and catchy, and see if people would like that. And if you are here again, I highly recommend take the IR button on the top, tweet it out. And what you do is you tweet out specifically, say something. Don't just tweet out. Say something. Hey, I'm talking to Bobby and Adam and Bex or about LinkedIn. Come join us. Hashtag Twitter Spaces. And if you tag me at Rayhan Bobby and I see it, then I can retweet it to my 500,000 followers, which will bring more people in the room, which will potentially bring you more followers. And so it's a win-win. So just try to do that. Viraj, I just want to make sure that you actually are next. Also, if you have a question or something, you could actually put it in the purple thing on the bottom right there to add a comment or add questions on what you're thinking, what you're seeing. So we just want to get more people in the room to get people to talk about this stuff. That being said, I want to make sure I respond to Hadiza's question first before I go to you, Viraj. So let's see. Hadiza's question is tips about using hashtags on LinkedIn. So I'm going to talk about that right now. So hashtags are becoming more and more popular, more relevant on the platform. And you know, when you start creator mode, you automatically get to pick 5 hashtags that represent who you are. And what I recommend for that one is you want to pick at least one that's specifically your hashtag, something that you own. So some people have like Bobby speaks or Adam's awesome tips. I'm making this up. Mine actually is Power of Connection, which is the same hashtag used on Twitter for my Twitter space on Mondays. I didn't do one for my name. I probably should have, but for now, that's what I did. Then you pick ones that are very broad and very popular. So I have personal branding, I have entrepreneurship, and then you pick ones that are a little bit more specific to what you're doing. So I have one on storytelling, I have one on thought leadership, and so that's the 5 you choose. Now, when you do a post, hashtags also are a great way to be seen and for people to see your post. So every post I do on LinkedIn, Power Connection is always there because then I can look at Power Connection, see all my posts that are there, which is great. Um, but you can also people search for certain hashtags and they see posts, and LinkedIn looks at those things. So according to the latest research from the algorithm expert, which is that's Richard Vanderblom, he's saying 2 to 6 hashtags on each post. Now you don't have to put hashtags, but I'll usually put 3, maybe 5, but for the most part, if I want to really get it out there, I'll put on more hashtags. But my standard is to pick what are the 3 that really mean the most to me for this one. So that's kind of what I do. So hopefully that answers your question. If anybody on stage, and again, we invite people to come on stage. So come on stage and be part of the lounge, Lizard. So if Adam, Bex, or Van or Viraj want to comment on the hashtag thing, this is the best time to do it before we move on to Viraj's question or comment. Anybody want to say something?
Yeah, I'll say something quickly on the hashtag thing. I have, so I try to listen to, especially with regard to like LinkedIn, you, Bobby, and a lot of my other friends who are LinkedIn power users, always testing out the algorithm and making different recommendations. So I try to stay really flexible with regard to trying, maybe 3 hashtags or 5 hashtags or, and just kind of looking at the other content that I find meaningful and valuable to me and trying to emulate those examples. I think ultimately in my own very personal experience, it's been kind of a I don't necessarily want to call it a crapshoot, but like there are times where I will follow a very strict like 3 or 5 hashtags, and it will do very well, and then it will stop doing very well, and I think ultimately it's one of those things where hashtags can be very helpful, but I think that the most helpful thing is having really great content and really engaging interaction thereafter with, it doesn't matter if it's 2 people who comment on your post. Get back to those people and comment on their comments and basically communicate that you value the time that they took out of their day. And that's one of the things that's actually really difficult is there are times where like I will get 2 weeks behind on posts and it will almost appear as if I'm posting and ghosting. And I'll take a whole weekend, Saturday morning or, whole morning and go through all the comments that I can possibly get to in like a 2-hour span. And it almost doesn't matter when you do it, although there are a lot of people who test out the algorithm and say the best time to do it is between this time and this time or right after you post. But I think ultimately the most important thing is at the end of the day to communicate that you appreciate that value, because even if you get one more follower or one more connection, and we just talked about followers, I like to think about a potential 1, 2, 3 followers as that's a potential 1, 2, 3 partnerships or potential, think about it that way, as opposed to the mindset of, okay, I get X amount of followers and it's like collecting baseball cards. you don't want to think of people that way. You want to think of, well, this is someone I could work on a project with, or who might recommend me for something or might see value that way. When you start to think about people in a kind of holistic context, I think it becomes much more satisfying from a human perspective and much more successful from a business standpoint.
And just to bring it back to the hashtag thing, I mean, if you're going to employ hashtag strategy, I think the most important thing to remember is consistency. So picking those one, two, three, or four hashtags you're going to be using consistently, and in particular, the one that represents you specifically. Okay, because that's a chance for you to own a hashtag. So, for example, if Bex was doing one, Bex, I'm making this up, Bex Biz Tips, that type of thing, or Van's meanderings, whatever, but have something that you feel good about, and you just make sure you do it consistently. So for me, Power of Connection, it's on every single post I do. And so now people can know where to find those, and now the followers of that hashtag are starting to grow, which is great. With that, I want to go move to Viraj. Your hand's been up. Thanks for being patient. And then we'll go to Van, then Hadiza. So, Viraj, do you have a question for us today or a comment today?
Yeah, first of all, a very good evening, sir, Bobby, sir, and everyone who is listening to me. I am Viraj Tiwari. I'm from India basically, and I'm an investment banker by profession. I work for JP Morgan. And sir, I would actually like to add one thing, in terms of followers, people having irrelevant followers are the ones who who doesn't even know how to use a Twitter, and these guys have almost followers of almost 1 lakh followers or maybe 2 lakh followers. I even don't know. And what basis these guys actually post something which is irrelevant, and young people or maybe youth follow them, and then they try to become like them. So I really don't know, sir, and I am that kind of a person. If I want to connect to a person, I really want to make sure that that person is connected to me on a personal level, because for me, caring or maybe on a human relations are very important, sir. That's the main reason why I come to these spaces, or to the spaces, where I can share my own things, because I've seen in my own country spaces as well, where people actually don't respect you the way they it should be, and Twitter is a very professional thing to be very honest, and but people are using in a very different way, but we can't stop it. Yeah, that's it, sir. And Bobby, sir, you are one of the most amazing person that I can tell you, an amazing host. And Adam, a wonderful man. Yeah, respect to you, man, and everyone who's listening to me. Love from India to everyone.
Thanks, Viraj. That was great. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, it's interesting. There is a problem right now, and this is on every platform where there's people who are posting a lot of not junk, but a lot of stuff that's not very relevant, or they're just gaming the system. And so, that's gonna whatever they do, you reap what you sow, right? I mean, whatever you put in and whatever you reap, you're gonna get back what you put in and how you put it in, right? So there are people who just focus on the algorithms. People who just there's one person I know, like every single one of her posts is just the same thing every single time, and I'm like, God, like this, and she has like 60,000 followers, but it's just always like, I mean, and she's just, and I find her post to be quite boring, but she's been gaming the algorithm and gaming engagement groups, and now she has all the followers, and good for her. And I once, here's a funny story. I once tried to have a conversation with her, and I said, hey, I see that you're based in Singapore. I'm looking to connect with a couple people in Singapore in such and such space. Do you know anybody? And then she just responded back the way her LinkedIn posts were. It's like, oh, thanks for following my posts and be happy. And I'm like, okay. I said, thanks. And then I said, hey, just want to follow up. I really would love some help with what I'm asking, which is I'm looking, I'm on LinkedIn network with people. As I'm sure you are. I'd love to have some. Are you also doing stuff in this type of industry? And she just kept, and then she responded back. It's like, yes, I do work here, and I'm really happy, and all the best to you. And I was like, so then I followed up a third time. I said, I really appreciate your response. I'd love to have a conversation with you, but more specifically, I'm looking to connect with one or two people in this space that are hosting events specifically on, such and such. And and she just wouldn't answer. And then finally she responded back and saying, yes, I have some connections. But this email messaging is getting to be annoying, so I'm gonna stop. And so she didn't even answer my question. She stopped, and then she blocked me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Sorry, and I was like, "This is hilarious. I don't understand this." And she probably has like 80,000 followers by now. So there's people on the platform who are you know, I'm not sure what they're doing or how they're gaming or whatever what they're trying to do, but it certainly is a challenge. But I did my best because I did want to have that connection. But at the end of the day, like I moved on and I focused on the people that really matter because those people, they build a relationship, they start to matter for you. So I just thought it was a really funny point with that. And I see a lot of hands go up, so let's go to Adam first.
Yeah, there are two things I kind of want to pull out of that, Bobby. The first is that, like, when I spend some time talking to founders, and to your point about your messaging to this person saying, "Hey, I'd love to have a conversation, but I'm looking for other people in this community or in this geography, who I can connect with, who I can possibly run events with or create some value for." Really, what you're communicating to that person is, hey, I'm looking to create bridges between communities, between the people who I know and the people who you know. And that is, there's a certain amount of value and power in being, a thought leader or an expert in a particular industry. There is an insane amount of power in being a connector between different demographics, between different communities. And I think that when you have that opportunity to not take that opportunity, if there's a way for lots of people to win and to find success and benefit, it's a wasted opportunity. And to your point about having lots of followers and gaming the algorithm, and you'll hear me continue to hammer on this point again and again. Back in 2020, I know, Bobby, I know you've heard this story on different clubhouses that we've been on, that it was like in 2020, I started sharing content at a time when people who test out the algorithm, and certainly know more about it than I do, would say, well, text posts are good this month, or video posts are good this month, but always at the very bottom of that pecking order seem to be sharing content, because for whatever reason, their experiences had been that the LinkedIn algorithm suppressed sharing content. I don't know why, but that's what I continued to see through a lot of content. And I really only started sharing content for two really super core basic reasons. First is I wanted to continue to put out content that was, consistent and engaging, but I didn't have anything earth-shattering to share that day or that week. And I was finding that kind of value in stuff I was reading and wanted to share it. And also, that's how I really built my Twitter, access and network. Was basically 85% or more of everything I share isn't about me. It's about, this is a cool company, or this is a great founder, or this is a mission I believe in, whether it's mental health or diversity or whatever. And that allows really fantastic on-ramps. And I was shocked because I started sharing posts probably every day, every other day. And it was like, boom, 50,000 views, 100,000 views, 200,000 views. I mean, I did probably 1.7 million views over, I don't know, 10 posts or something. It was crazy. And I wrote about that, and you can find that article on my LinkedIn page. And the takeaways that I think are really important are, virality is a fun ego boost. It's a fun ride, but it's ephemeral. At some point, the algorithm changes. So this notion of, okay, our marketing strategy is we're going to go viral is not a sufficient strategy. And I also don't think it's sufficient in creating really fantastic relationships. I think that it can put you in front of some people with whom you can develop those dialogues, but you still have to put in the time to look for mutually beneficial avenues. And the to your point about testing out different portions of the algorithm and basically just gaming it so that you gain a massive follower count. What good is a massive follower count if your reputation is one of somebody who's effectively inaccessible or not looking to create opportunities and possibilities for the people in your network who are really close to you? I mean, then it really ultimately is just a vanity metric. And I think that it's really important that as we spend time talking about LinkedIn growth and growth opportunities, we don't lose sight of there's a reason that the ultimate reason that we should be looking at that growth is to figure out how do we create more business opportunities, not just for ourselves, but for the people in our communities. Rising tides lift all ships. And I think that that's a critical takeaway from your example of, you went back to this person 2-3 times and said, hey, I'm looking to create value. I can get some value, you can get some value, your people in your community can get some value, everyone can come away with some value. And it was effectively shot down in what I view as a pretty significant wasted opportunity. So anyway, I will have to hop out soon at some point, but I want to continue to listen to as many of these other brilliant guest speakers as I can.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And I put your tweet up there in the nest. I put Van's tweet up there in the nest because those are good examples of how to promote a space. So they shared some really nice information. They tagged me. They put some hashtags in, and I encourage you to retweet those tweets so that again more people come to the room. A lot of people have their hands up on this conversation. So let's go to Bex first, then we'll go to Van, then Viraj. Bex, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much. I probably have background noise. I wanted to, first and foremost, thank you for bringing me up and tell you that I'm going to hop down and hop off because I'm in transit. Adam, your words are amazing, and they just remind me of, we all have our own social responsibility, whether you're a part of a corporation in Web 2 or Web 3. I really do just a rule, and it's so old school and so basic, but I think that I know that it transcends in all walks of life, including social media. And so that would just be what I'd want to, end my involvement in this space today on, is just treat people the way you want to be treated, both online, offline, in business, and also with your personal brand. It really goes a long way, and it's all about longevity. And when I approach a new situation, whether it be a business opportunity or any type of personal relationship, which I feel can go hand in hand, I lead with kindness and how can I add value to this person's life. It's never about what is my gain. It's all about how can I add value. There's a lot of data to support what gratitude and giving brings back to you, and just surrendering to that and knowing that, I'm just going to do the best I can and treat people well with the best resources that I can possibly do and see what happens. So it's kind of just a holistic approach, but that's how I run my business and my personal life. And I just wanted to thank you for letting me come up and saying hello. And I am going to drop off because I'm being irresponsible and driving and talking in a Twitter space. So thank you so much, and I hope everyone takes care of themselves, or kind to themselves and kind to others. So have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bex. And I do a space on Sundays normally at 3 p.m. on LinkedIn, and I also do one on Mondays called the Power Connection at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And I always love when people come on stage and share. I mean, to me, that's what makes the Twitter Spaces the best part of it. I love that Adam used the quote that I use a lot too, which is "A rising tide lifts all boats." That's the whole philosophy that I've been spouting off about the Thought Leaders Brand Club, which is a community of thought leaders and experts in different fields who are building their brands and business across multiple platforms, including social, audio, LinkedIn, Twitter, and whatnot. And we're helping each other get to that next level. So that's why that club and that group exists. So you can check it out at TLB Branding, which is actually a branding club, which is a Twitter Twitter account here. I'd love to go to, and we're talking about LinkedIn Lounge Lizard, where experts gather to share kick-ass tips. You want to come on stage and ask a question, you totally can. If you want to share this and tweets out the world, please do. You can use the tweets up above in the nest to let people know about the room. I'd love to go to Van now. Van, welcome. Hello, introduce yourself, and please share a thought or a tip or a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. You can I just followed you on LinkedIn, and you can bet I'm going to scour your account. I struggle with the whole algorithm discussion as well, and I actually have a lot of people who are, I'm going to use air quotes, Twitter experts, right? That are really promoting exactly what you guys are talking about, the vanity side of it. I want to see substance. I want to see growth from substance. I don't want to throw out 1,000 tweets or 1,000 messages on LinkedIn a day that ask totally irrelevant questions just for the sake of being seen. And I struggle with how to compare that to what the algorithm is trying to do in trying to be more visible. And I think it was Adam that said it, what you're being seen for, what you're getting known for. I don't want to get known for, I don't want to be known as the guy that sends, that creates 100 messages a day that have zero relevance in what I'm doing or what I'm trying to accomplish simply because it's visible. But yet the alternative to that is people are saying, in order to, appease the algorithm gods, you have to just throw stuff out there. And to me, when I see that on LinkedIn, when I do see it, I completely blow right past it, even if it's somebody who I follow or somebody who I'm interested in. And I now wonder, like, am I the only one who does that? Do I need to play the game, which I hate because I believe in growth through, organic means, right? With your account. And a great example, I commented on a post just a few weeks ago. I didn't have a lot of followers on LinkedIn, but I got 250 followers simply on a comment, from a post. So I can see the value of it, but now I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's the middle ground in this, in order to, number one, appease the, LinkedIn gods, versus what is going to help me promote myself as somebody, who posts on LinkedIn very much, like I speak. I try not to speak in these spaces unless I have something to say. It's the same thing with LinkedIn. I don't want to post something unless I have something to say. So am I being too dramatic about my views on this, or am I missing the point on this? And one final question for you, Bobby. I did not know until this very minute that LinkedIn had spaces as well like this. So I feel like there's a whole nother avenue that I've been missing out on. So I'll definitely be watching for those. So thank you for letting me speak. Thanks for letting me ask my question.
Thanks, Van. Let me ask you a question. Keep your mic on for me. So, number one, do you believe in building relationships?
Oh, absolutely.
And when you meet people at network events, do you ask questions?
Absolutely.
And do you prefer yes/no questions, or do you like yes and the open-ended questions?
Both yes, no, and yes, and open-ended questions, definitely.
Okay, yeah. So the three things we just talked about just now, that's gaming networking events, right? And it's all about how you position it. We just talked about three ways to game networking events. So whether you call it gaming or whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, the whole idea of an algorithm, or tips for networking, or tips for using TikTok, or tips for using Twitter, it's about just having knowledge, right? Knowing about the algorithm, and every platform has some sort of algorithm, is an asset, right? It'd be foolish to not know what it is, right? If you want to do well on Twitter, you should know what people are doing, and then decide what strategy is going to work best for you. Same with LinkedIn. It's good to know, and what I would say also is that LinkedIn and Instagram in particular have very particular algorithmic things that change and evolve all the time. So in those cases, it's more particularly important to know about how they work and how you can leverage them. Now, it doesn't mean you have to leverage them, right? Again, it's an asset. You don't have to use it. But same with Twitter. It's important to know how people like tweets. Now, there are people who on LinkedIn, for example, share viral videos and they get tons of traction, and that's their strategy. There's people on Twitter who share, choose that you love. What's your favorite? And they do that all the time, over and over again. And of course, those tweets get a lot of attention and traction and whatnot. And so that's a tactic. Now, it's a tactic to an end, but you got to pick what works best for you. So what I would say, Van, is when it comes to your strategy, I think it's good to know a little bit about certain aspects of the algorithm, right? But particularly ones that penalize your amazing content from getting out there, right? So, for example, one really important one is don't tag 20 people in your post, because if those people don't comment on it, that post gets extremely penalized for being shown out there. And when people do that, because like, oh, I want people to see my post, but it's a huge algorithmic detraction from your post. And so I would say don't do that one, right? Because you should know that the algorithm really penalizes that really well. Whereas there's other ones where, some people, the algorithm used to penalize a little bit about putting links in posts, but now they say it doesn't. And so far, I put links in my posts. But the truth is, it was last year's research showed that it was a 5 to 10%, penalty of reach. But then I'm like, well, if I don't put in the post and I put in the comments, then it's going to get lost. And so, yeah, I could get 5 people to search for in the comments and click on it, or I can get 20 people to click on it in the post, even though I have 10% less reach. So I had to make that strategic decision. Now, again, you don't have to use the algorithm, but it's good to have some knowledge of that thing on different platforms. And what I would say to that is, again, continue to focus on creating great content, focus on building relationships, focus on optimizing your profile so that people know exactly who you are and what you do, and then play the long game. Now, that said, and I wouldn't call myself a LinkedIn or Twitter or digital expert if I didn't say this qualifier. There are people who game the system. There are people who use engagement pods. There are people who use those repeated, super vulnerable posts and repeated, things to get people's attention all the time. And they do it to build a large amount of followers, because there is a strategy around building lots of followers, and I should know because I have half million followers on Twitter, uh, to help with your business. There are people I know, specifically on LinkedIn, who have used these strategies, which I don't do and I don't want to do, but they've built up such a following with 200, 300,000 followers, that now they're able to use that as part of their business. Now, how they got there, I disagree with, um, but what they're doing with it, I can understand why they're doing with it. I don't have the time or the patience or the money or an army of VAs to do what they've done, but I understand why they're doing it. But that's not for me. You got to do what works for you. Go ahead,
Excellent.
Van.
No, I was just commenting. Excellent. No, I appreciate that. And I've been far underutilizing LinkedIn for what it is. I've just been spending the last 3 weeks just trying to learn Twitter. So, I think the power of LinkedIn is there. I want to be very cautious about how I choose to grow there, since that is a professional representation of me.
Yeah, and again, Twitter was the first place where I found my influence, and things started to take off. So I love it. And I think tomorrow for the Power Connection chat, I'm going to talk about this whole Elon Musk taking over Twitter and how it affects me and how I think we should respond to it, because I think it's an important discussion that I want, because I really want to keep people on this platform. I want people to not leave. When people leave because of any sort of fear of oppression, whatever, then the people who are the oppressors win. And I hate that idea. So let's try to stay on this platform and share knowledge and share with each other. Adam, go ahead. Your thought.
Okay, really, really last quick thought before I do have to run. But you said something that was so poignant. I had to underscore it. I think it's really important to understand and understand for yourself how you define influence and how you define reach and how you define these kinds of things, because I have worked really hard to get to what I'm at, maybe 4,000 followers on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for many years, and I'm just now at 4,000. And I've seen people who they were at 200 when I was at 3,000, and now they're at 26,000, and they've kind of zoomed right past me. And I see people. The new thing on Twitter seems to be, I've only been on Twitter since February of last year, and I've grown to X amount of followers, and it's just this continuing of hammering the number of followers, as opposed to well, what's the conversation that you're putting out there? What kind of reputation are you building? And everyone has to define for themselves what their ultimate goal is. So for me, it was a big part of my mental health journey, detaching from, I have to get to 10,000, I have to get to 20,000 followers, or else everything I do is not worth the effort. And reevaluating, okay, actually my goal is I really want to be able to know people and pick up the phone or send someone like Bobby a message and say, hey, I'm going to be in town, we should grab a coffee and talk about LinkedIn, or this person's going to be in town and I really think they would be a beneficial connection for you. And that mentality for me is what has allowed me to methodically and patiently build the relationships. And I think that Bobby's content across different platforms is also something that I really want to highlight. you can get to certain people where they are. Let's say, if Bobby was at 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, but only at 2,000 followers on Twitter. I mean, he's obviously much more than that, but hypothetically, and if you look and he's consistently posting day after day on Twitter, what you know is he's trying to build his brand there. He's trying to build his footprint there currently, right now, today. And it's a lot easier to stand out from 2,000 than 100,000. So what you can do in a proactive way to build your network is and to identify, hey, I'd like to talk to Bobby. I think at one point, sometime in the future, we could do business together or create value together. You can start to engage with his content where he's not a huge footprint yet, and create value for that, and do so in a consistent way that's not, fanboyish, but basically underscores, hey, listen, I like your content on platform A. I see you're trying to build it on platform B, and I'd like to be a part of that growth in a productive and a positive manner. And that, I think, is, in my experience, has been immensely powerful in getting in front of people who, have otherwise would be very far outside my reach, in terms of saying, hey, I exist and I'd like to have a conversation with you at some point in the future when it makes sense, because I think we could do really interesting things together. And, I wrote a post over the summer. I think I spent about 10 weeks targeting a particular TikTok influencer whose content I found to be positive and valuable, who at the time had 1.5 million followers on TikTok, but only a few thousand on Twitter, and was trying to build the brand there. So leveraging different platforms and learning where can you create value is a really wonderful way of understanding how you can be a part of that person's growth and journey in a way that really creates value for them.
Thanks, Adam. And again, you're probably going to leave soon, but I do appreciate you being here today. I normally don't do Twitter Spaces this early. I usually do them at 3 p.m. Eastern, but I happen to be at a Rubik's Cube competition that my son's at, and so he's cubing, and I'm here just in the car doing a tweet chat, Twitter Space and whatnot. I'm happy to report that he did his first round of 3x3, and he averaged 19.5 seconds for his solving of the 3x3. So that's not bad. He's initially in the top 10, but we'll see how that goes in the next round. Hadiza, thanks so much for your patience, for staying on stage here. I'd love to get to your question or comment.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Bobby. And using your example, I'd like to say hello to everyone: Van, Marjan, Lisa, Lucy. I'm not sure if this name is Andrea, Michael, and I'm not sure if this is Kales, but hi, everyone. And forgive me if I did not mention your name. I've been following Bobby for a while now. Ever since before he got as many followers as he has right now. And I always used to look forward to his tweets where he would go, it's a beautiful morning, as he sips coffee or as he sips tea. I'm more of a tea fan. I'm a tea lover. Americans love coffee. I haven't picked up that habit. I'm more of a tea
I'm
person.
a tea guy as well, so it's great.
That's awesome. And one of your tweets, which really stood out for me, was the one about your Ami's birthday. That's your mom. And I really loved that tweet. And that tweet really demonstrates to me the power of relationships. It made me feel like, um, you're a real person, like I know you. And then, that's why this space is really such an awesome opportunity. I followed you for a long time, but it never really occurred to me that one day I would actually be speaking to you or sharing some of my thoughts. And that's why the tip you gave on using hashtags is really important. It has really changed a lot of things for me right now. Because when you were talking about the tips, on how to use hashtags on LinkedIn, I went back to my profile and I saw the hashtags I'm using. I asked the question about tips because I've not been getting the kind of response I had hoped or expected on LinkedIn. I'm a journalist, so most of the time on LinkedIn, I post about my work. I post about mainly reports. I give updates about what's happening mostly in my country. And then at the same time, I'm a news anchor. So I also post highlights from time to time about my news anchorage. And I also post tips and ask people if, they need help with presentation, stuff like that. So I mostly use hashtags related to the military, newscasting, broadcast journalism, and the defense industry in general. But here's the thing, I noticed that people don't really read the posts. um, how I got to know that is like what Van said. I use questions sometimes at the end of my post, and I make sure they're not long because so many people don't have time to read really long posts. I mean, I read a lot of posts on LinkedIn, the ones I find important. I read them, I like them, I engage. But in my case, I post something maybe as an anchor or I'm out on the field with the military. And the next thing I see in the comments is, wow, beautiful lady. Hey, hi. And then the next thing someone is DMing me and, give me your number. But that's not why I'm on LinkedIn. That's not what I want. I want to connect with like minded women and especially those who need help, with the issues they're having in their profession. And to me, LinkedIn is the place where you meet intellectuals, you meet professional people. So I had to ask myself, why am I getting these sort of messages in my DM? Why are people, I'm not sure if many women experience the same thing. But at a point, it was really getting me down, and I thought of leaving LinkedIn. And that's why when I saw your space and I saw it was talking about LinkedIn and I saw the name Lounge Lizards, because, the funny thing is, I thought, I was like, oh my God, is he going to talk about those creepy people who sneak into your DM on LinkedIn and how to deal with them? So let me get on there. And so I really want to thank you for the tips on hashtags. It has really helped. And I was telling you just before I got sidetracked about how I know people don't read my posts, even though they're short. I think it has something to do with the hashtags. I'm not targeting them at the people I want because those people are not showing up. Like I said, I want to engage with like-minded women. I want women want help with uh, who want help with their presentation. Even if you're in the boardroom, you're going to make a presentation to all these people. So you might want, even if you're a public speaker, once in a while you're going to want to need help. So these are the people that I want to connect with on LinkedIn. And now that you've given me these tips about the hashtags, I can see that it's really going to change a lot for me. And I'm really grateful for that. And then finally, before I go, I want to also mention something else I've noticed on LinkedIn that maybe you can help us with that would, help us to improve in terms of engagement. So I noticed some people say you should post at least 8 times a day. And then others say that
Eight
you're,
times a day? Who
yeah,
says
that's
that?
what,
Who says
yeah,
that?
and for someone who's a journalist or any busy professional, 8 times a day is like, that's kind of like unrealistic, isn't it? Because this guy, you get a
That's
lot of people.
ridiculous. I mean, the only people who should post maybe 8 times per day are established multi-million dollar brands, right? So someone like Gary
Okay,
Vaynerchuk will post because he has thousands of videos and thousands of posts, and so he's posting content regularly. But regular people, definitely not. That's outrageous. And if someone's an expert, didn't give you that context, I'm upset by this.
phew, I'm so relieved, because I was like, how am I going to juggle my job and this? I'm actually at work right now. I had to sneak into the studio so I could take part. That's how busy we are here. So it's kind of like, I'm so glad to know I don't have to do this 8 times a day. But I am intrigued, though, that you mentioned having a strategy. So that's something that we're probably going to have to look into more. I think a strategy is key. For instance, on Twitter, this account, I have an official account where I tweet about official work. But this particular account here on Twitter, in which I've joined this space, that's at Hadi Naji, I just use it to form connections, just listen in on what people are saying. I use it more as kind of like a learning experience. So this account is mainly like a classroom for me. I just, go over here, see what people are saying, and I learn from that. And I try sometimes to use it to improve my work. So yeah, for me, Twitter is not really. I'm not there on Twitter. I have about 1,600 followers here. It took me a very long time to get to the 1,600 because I joined in 2013. So on Instagram, I find the engagement on Instagram to be a lot higher than on LinkedIn. And so I've tried to replicate what I do on Instagram on LinkedIn, but it doesn't give me the same results. For instance, on Instagram, if there's a reel, a trending reel, or a trending sound, and I use it on Instagram, I'm going to get an engagement of at least 20 people. But if I try to replicate it on LinkedIn and I use maybe that trending sound and I bring it into LinkedIn, it doesn't quite have the same effect. Sometimes it seems like it's even counterproductive. So once again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Bobby, for giving me the opportunity. And I'd be grateful to learn more about, the strategy and how, we can replicate the results we get on other social media platforms and maybe bring them to LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Okay, Hadiza, are you going to be here for the next 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody in the audience and on stage, there's a scissors button below, and that scissors is a way for you to take a clip of what people share. I'm gonna drop for you like 5 to 10 major nuggets in the next minute or two because you brought up so much stuff that I can't even address. So when I'm done, you can click on the scissors button and you can share that clip with everyone in the world. So let's start with the first thing. You share trending stuff on Instagram, great. On LinkedIn, what's trending? Find trending news articles from LinkedIn and then share those and share your take on those trending news articles. You're a journalist, that's the best thing you can do because you can find things relevant to the things you care about and then share that with your audience. And then if you really want to build, I mean, again, how do we are there negative trolls on the platform? They're everywhere. So that's a problem for a lot of women across many platforms. Now, how do we address that? I mean, if they message you, either ignore it or block it or report it. If it's really appropriate, you report it because that way LinkedIn can cancel those things. Otherwise, they keep doing it to other people, which sucks. But again, part of it is your emotional energy, right? I mean, there's a mental energy and a safety and security thing. So the general rules is just ignore it and don't worry about that stuff and just move on and focus on what you're trying to do. But that also says, in terms of getting the results on LinkedIn, you also have to have a clear profile about who you are, what you do. I would recommend a 30-second video on your profile to say, this is what I'm here for. Here's what I do. Here's what I talk about. And then in your about section, lay out exactly here you are. Here's what I do. Here's what I talk about. I'm here to connect with these types of people. Make it very, very clear on your profile. And the last thing is take the cover banner image that you have on your profile and put images and put stuff on there that says, this is what I do. Here's why I'm here. And be really clear on that. And then when it comes to putting content out there, consistency. Now, the most people should be posting is once per day. But again, who's got time for that, right? I post 3 times per week. If you have a lot of money or assets or virtual assistants, great. You might be able to do some more, but you don't, as long as it's consistent, right? If you can do 1, 2, or 3 posts per week consistently at the same time when people can expect it, then you're going to get greater traction. Same with the consistency of the hashtags, same with the type of content. And then with content types, mix it up because you don't know what's going to work. What works on LinkedIn doesn't work on Instagram, which doesn't work on Twitter. Pick the ones that work. Now, video content works across all 3 platforms, so I highly recommend you doing video content. I think that's a great way to go. But also experiment. 20% of the time, 80-20 rule. 80% of your content is targeted towards your objective and who you're trying to address. The other 20%, experiment, try new things, talk personal, share personal stories of your journey, what you're going through. I think that's a great way to build awareness, to humanize the experience, and to, again, build relationships with people that you trust. And again, play the long game. So that's my thoughts for today. Hopefully you like that. You can click on the scissors and share that with the world because I want to make sure people get that knowledge. And I know someone's asked to come on stage, but actually we're over time. I have to go get my son and get him some lunch for his Rubik's Cube competition. I want to thank Hadiza, Van, everybody else who joined us on stage today. I want to thank everybody for joining here. If you learned something, take a photo. Here's content ideas. Take a photo of this page, of this space, and then tweet out the 3 things you learned. Or take the replay and share 3 things with your audience that you learned. And then if you tag me at Rayhan Bobby, I will retweet them 500,000 followers. If you create a LinkedIn post about it and say, here are the 3 things I learned from Bobby in this space, I'm going to love that. I'm going to then like and comment on it, which means that my 46,000 followers on LinkedIn will also see that I liked and comment on it. This is a win-win game. We all help each other out. Promoting one another is win-win-win. So I can encourage you to do that. I thank you all for checking things out. You can also follow me if you look at the pinned tweet up there. And I wish you guys all the best. Happy Sunday and happy Halloween. Tomorrow I'm going to be dressing up with my family. We're doing a group costume. We're going to Adam's family. You'll see pictures on Twitter and elsewhere on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So all the best to you. Take care. Stay safe. And we'll talk soon. So long.